Welcome back, everybody. We only have one question left, and then we will invite Moorhead candidates. We want to give a shout out to Moorhead candidates, whether they are Republican or Democrat. So we are a bipartisan, so anybody is welcome to our event. So let's go to our last question. So what does it mean to be civically engaged, and why is it important for individuals to be engaged in their community? So, Mahamoud?
You want to start here?
1 minute.
I'll make it even brief. We all aspire, we want to see things that we all want to. If we want education, we all want good education. If we want good housing, we all want good housing. If we want, good healthcare system, we are all aspiring for the same thing. Having that dialogue of understanding from one another's perspective and respecting one another, showing respect and dignity to your neighbors and everybody else is what it takes to have that civility in terms of engagement. We may disagree in the process, but we have to agree on the commonality of the issues that we all face together. So that's something that we can all agree on. So I think that's the better way of putting it in a short sentence.
Thank you.
For me, civic engagement means when individuals in every society do their best to build the society that we want to live in, from every standpoint, whether it's mentoring other young folks, whether it is tackling the educational issues, systematic issues that we have. That's what it means to be civically engaged. Voting is huge. And so, when I think about engagement, those are the type of things that I think about.
Well, to make it short, civil engagement, it's how you solve problem in community, how you make a change in your community, how you practice democracy, how to, you can vote, that's part of it. And how can you make a change in your community is to involve. And part of it is civic engagement. And a lot of us did it before, and we continue to do it until we make change in our community, whether if it's an individual or organization like you guys, Simon and Hukun, it's part of it.
Sean, thank you.
Civic engagement it means promoting the well-being of your community, whether that's the nuclear community or the greater community. It's also, caring about something other than your own self-interest. It's inclusion in and equity in education, in housing, in healthcare, and proper representation of all communities. And it's important. Why is it important? Because our voices matter, our votes matter. So we have to, continue to stay active so we can hold people accountable. And we can also always remember that policies have consequences. So if you don't stay active and engaged, you will never. No one will hear from you, and those policies may have a negative impact in your community or in your own life.
Well, being civically engaged means a civic duty that we all have to fulfill. When I think about civic engagements, a civic duty that we all have to fulfill. And just an example, just think about when you're engaged in your community, we're planting the seeds of the next generation. The seeds of the next generation that our kids grow up in. So we have to get out, do the work, and make sure we're giving back in any way. And as my colleagues said, in any way that you can, civically engage, whether you're registering someone to vote, whether it's, mentoring someone, we all have to do our part as a civic engagement. And I also want to just say that, I met Barack Obama and I met Michelle Obama, and they're always my heroes.
Thank you, Eke. Thank you to our panelists tonight. So I wanted to recognize one of our candidates in Moorhead, and I wanted to introduce you one by one, and the ones I know, and then I'll invite the other ones. Let me start with Representative Ben Lin. And so the last session, Eke and we had a bill, Somali Youth Workforce Development, and we were lobbying for that bill, and we went to Representative Ben Lin. We showed him the bill, and we just said, this bill is for Somali youth and workforce development. And he didn't even question us. He said, if it's for workforce development, Somali youth, this is my constituent. He signed. So he's running for... So he's running for House Representative in Moorhead, just like Hodan and Mahamoud Noor. So Representative Ben Lin, you can come forward and say something to your constituents.
Can I say something? And 1 second before Ben Lin speaks, can we all say one time, thank you for all the work that he's doing? Thank you.
Well, thank you. I don't have a lot to say. I didn't really plan to say anything tonight, but thank you for the invitation, and thanks to the folks who were come up here from the Twin Cities. I know it's a long drive, and so I really appreciate you coming up here to see Moorhead, and welcome to Moorhead. And really thank all of you for coming out tonight and being a part of this conversation, because these are really the types of conversations we need to be having in order to move forward as a whole inclusive community, because the community starts with all of us, and if we're not all a part of it, you know, we're never going to be as strong as we really can. We're never going to reach the full potential that we do have. So really thank all of you for coming out tonight and making Moorhead a great place to live, work, and to be here. Thank you.
We need to vote, right? So next is, I want to introduce you, Mark Altenberg. So Mark and I, we met 2015. He sent me an email and asking me how we can work together. He introduced me as a school board member. And there was a lot of issues that was happening that time, that most of our immigrant youth were not graduating from school because of their age, and a lot of issues that was going on that time. There was no relationship between the school and the immigrant community. There was a lot of issues that was happening that time. And I talked to Mark and tell him what our community were facing that time, and we came up with a project called New American Family Learning Services that was having liaison officers both from the Somali community and from the Iraqi community. We wrote the project, sent to Bremer Foundation, funded. It was 1 year project, and now the project became part of the school of funding, the 2 liaison officers. And the person who did that was Mark Altenberg. He's running for Moorhead School Board, so he will tell us more about it.
I want to say my hero is Barack Obama as well. So I did work for Barack in Iowa in 2007 and did have the chance to meet him, but my office downstairs is Obama land. So thank you, Hukun. Hukun impresses me tremendously. When I worked over at the tech school, I read an article in the Fargo Forum about a young gentleman who had started an organization with the Nepalese and Bhutanese community on our campus because they were running into the same issue, which is when they turned 17 or 18, their parents were asking them to go to work rather than to college. The Nepalese and the Bhutanese and the Somalis got together and figured out how to encourage their parents to take classes to learn English so that they could have a little space to go on and go to 2-year degree. And after meeting Hukun and we started to talk, there were tremendous opportunities in our community. And the liaison project was fascinating because what we found out, and I don't know if any high school students are in here or not, Hukun found out that a lot of our high school students were able to hack the system, and when they went in to put their absences in, they changed the cell phone number from their parents' cell phone number to their own cell phone number, so that when the school called, they were getting voicemails from the students. So Hukun wasn't welcome on the high school campus there for a while once he got all the numbers changed around. But what we were finding is that our detentions and our suspensions a lot of times were resulting from a lack of communication. Folks would call the parents, or there would be a lack of communication. So to have translators who spoke Kurdish, Arabic, Somali, Swahili, and as many, and French, to be able to communicate with our families, has really helped the school district a lot. We have a lot of work to do. We were cited by the Civil Rights Department this year for suspensions, and we are working with the state, and we want to work with the legislature to make sure that we have the resources we need to serve students. Last thing I can say on civic engagement, call me, email me. I think one of the most impressive things that Hukun has ever done, we had a meeting with the formation of the Somali elders at the school district. We had about 100 Somali moms in the room. Yeah. First time I think anybody in the district had seen that many Somali moms. And the comments really impacted especially our former superintendent, who's a mom and a grandma herself. And to understand how important that is, the human-to-human communication. Give me a call, email me. If there's something going on at the middle school, the elementary school, or the high school, get a hold of Hukun, get a hold of me, tell me so that I can bring it forward. The most frustrating thing, and I'm sure you guys run into it, is you hear from your constituents about issues out in the community, but no one told you at the time that it was happening. There's things I can do by making a phone call that can hopefully relieve some of the tension and make it better for your kids, because this is your community and this is your home, and you're going to be here for generations to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Also, we have here tonight Jonathan, who's running for a mayor. So Jonathan, Abdi told me more about him. So welcome, John.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you to the guests for coming up to our city to share your perspectives, for those that are local, for your work in our community. I will say, honestly, thank you for attending tonight. I'm very inspired. And honestly, at a loss for words, because, I mean, I'm assuming that I'm probably older than everyone sitting up here. And I will say, showing my age, you know, that's a humbling thing, but also to know that you can learn from younger generations, and also how that inspires you to take what you're learning and grow. It is tough to put yourselves out there, especially not knowing how you are going to be accepted by taking that next step in leadership. So I admire our guests, our panelists, and also all of you, because that's why we're here. We're here to have the conversations, we're here to learn from each other, and we're here to make our community stronger by building relationships. And honestly, that was a big, big thought and why I wanted to run for mayor. And so the hope is that through your service, through your work, through all of us doing the work, that we're going to make our community, our neighborhoods, and our nation better by building diversity. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. So, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. Anybody who have any question? Oh, Alex. A lot? Okay. Okay,
That's only for Hodan, though. Yeah. Give me time.
We'll take 3 questions. So, let me start with Alex. Yeah, you wanna come here? Alex is from downtown Fargo. You go there, you'll always see him there. He's a great. It's big. It's big.
Yeah. So again, very grateful. Thank you very much for joining us. So my name is Kyusa Alexandre. I'm from Rwanda, and I'm an international student here. The question I had basically is for my new Shiro here. I see you as an older sister, but as well, you being. I watched the video when I saw the invitation of my brother Hukun. I creeped on all of you a little bit, see what. And when I saw recently the video you shared and said how it inspired you because of your son as well, you're like thinking to build a better tomorrow for him. But I thought as well, and that could be for all of you, but I'm directing it to you, my older sister, is the power of allyship, because a lot of times in the spheres you're entering, you can be very alone because of maybe your skin color, because maybe of your exotic accent, because of. But right now, we're thinking again, I'm directing it to my older sisters, when I'm thinking of the box you're checking, you're a woman of color, Muslim, refugee. I mean, there's so many boxes you're checking that makes you super alone in some of the spheres you're entering. So I was thinking, how do you make allies, and how do you make sure that those already in those spheres don't see you as a super threat? Because sometimes they're like, oh my God, this is the less person I'm used to be around with. So again, think of the different boxes I said: women, person of color, Muslim, refugee. So again, it's not, I don't know if there's an answer, but I'm thinking how, to us that sometimes feel alone, how do you make sure you enter a sphere? Hey, I'm not a threat, I'm an ally, and here's why, like kind of the thing. But again, all of you, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Now I'm regretting to say that. Does anybody have questions? Alex, thanks for the question. It's an important question. When Hukun just said somebody who ran for school board is going to write a book. Sorry, what's the brother's name?
Matua.
The first thing that came to my mind was like, it's not easy running for an office when you're a person of color. I am a woman with a hijab. I am a former refugee. I have an accent. I speak at every problem that I see, which is also another problem. So I am a walking threat. But that doesn't stop me from connecting with others around me and building networks and allies. And the human relations are important. Besides all these layers, at the end of the day, all of us want to connect. All of us want to, cross that aisle and connect with that person. I have built networks, and I will continue building that network. But I just want to say that to anybody who's a person of color who's running for an office or thinking about running for an office or leadership, you will find allies. There will always going to be people who are gonna help you with this journey. So don't be afraid. Yes, it can be lonely sometimes, but don't be afraid. You'll find allies, and I continue to build allies, and I'm always, the thing about me is that my smile is contagious, so I just continue to smile at people. And, but it's a very important question. If anyone else.
1 minute.
Just to add a little bit about why representation matters. In the state legislature, there's no single black male in the state of Minnesota. So when we talk about black male, as the person who is now an immigrant, black, Muslim, all those things play a role. At the same time, it's how do you put yourself forward? What matters to you? How do you connect with your neighbors? How do you connect with the people that you want to represent? In a district that I'm running, I ran and won, 70% of the constituents are people, who are white. It's not that it's a shoe-in process, but it's unique. It's a district with the University of Minnesota, which is a really transient community. So you have to grasp with the issues that impact students. We all have the same aspirations, student debt, they want to see progressive values, some of it even challenging within our own constituency, the African community that we come from. Some of the progressive values that you're trying to envision and work with and build allies with the progressive who live in your district, it creates tensions within. And those things, I think, learning how to cope up with the challenges will help you build that leadership, and connecting with the people that you want to represent based on the issues is what matters the most.
Thank you. Jonathan, you have a question, right? Okay.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm I'm glad to see you here today. I think you're one of my heroes too. I have watched your campaign and it inspired me to run. I said, if she can do it, she's a woman, she's black, she's Muslim, and she have a different culture. I can also do it in West Fargo, and that has inspired me to change the district. My question is, if you would have to do something or change something for your country of birth, what would it be? Because last Tuesday, I followed news for South Sudan. That's where I was born. And the peacekeeping forces that they are taking to South Sudan for the peace process are from Somalia. Are from Somalia, and Somalia is one of the country with the war going on there. I wasn't sure if they were being sarcastic or they inspiring that. So my question is, if you would have to change something for your country of birth, what would it be and why?
Is it for everybody or is it?
Well,
Two or three can answer.
Why is it that?
The Shiro. We'll make it easy.
Go ahead.
I think you touched a major issue here. As someone who sees how can we change in the home country that we came from. Let's start within ourselves. Let's empower first of ourselves to learn from where we are. What have we learned from here? How can we take back that lesson and inform people that it's empowering the people who are on the ground? You see, the issues that are happening do not impact us because we live in, this houses, good education. So to empower them to decide for themselves and giving them the chance to learn that they can elect their leaders is something that will help them. Dictatorship is a big issue, and the issue that you just touched about is people are out of touch. A country that needs to build within cannot take forces to a different country that also needs help. The leadership is out of touch. They don't understand what their needs are. They already have outside forces, the African forces who are in Somalia. You cannot be taking your own forces to a different country. So that I'm not going to talk about international policy and how they deal with. I want to address what is happening locally so we can empower people back home.
Thank you.
There's notion of sending troops to Somalia, sending troops to Sudan, South Sudan, is the blind leading the blind. Somalia itself needs help, so I don't see how they can help somebody else. But one thing that if I could give back or change something from my birth country is, education. The education curriculum in Somalia, because we haven't had a stable government for 28 years, it's not that great. It's a private education system where I'll open a school, it's my school, my standards, the next guy opens a school, it's their school, their standards, and that's how the education system works. But if I could change something, it's to create an education curriculum that works for everyone.
Thank you.
Hukun, hang on. I just want to add it up.
Okay, 1 minute.
1 minute. Well, in order to make a change, if I want to make a change in my country, first of all, whether if you're here or anywhere else, the only way you can make a change is if you are on the top of leadership position. And in Somalia, in that case, you have to be the president in order to make a change. Otherwise, you will just follow the footsteps to the others. And I just want to add up Alex's question for one more thing. Alex, the women of color, and especially in our culture, are the strongest one for what you mentioned earlier. And whether if the school board or anywhere else, I'm sure you mentioned earlier, 100 moms showed up, and there was no father showed up. There was no. That's how my mom inspired me, and that's how Hodan, when she first called me and said she want to run position, that I wanted to help her. And because our Prophet ﷺ says, you know what, the luckiest woman is the one who have the first child as a daughter. And that's a lot of meaning to it. I mean, she's a mom, and that daughter will help her. A lot of things the man would not help her. And no matter where we go, we still hold that dear. We still see that culture, no matter where you go, no matter what color you are. And women is more strong, and especially in our culture. And like you said, she inspired me. A lot of women inspire me, and I'm glad you think that way as well.
Thank you, Sheikh. Also, I want you to know that Somalia is part of IGAD, so that's why we are sending troops there. Okay, Jonathan, have a question. You have a question, right?
So I can say that a lot of us probably have the same story, somewhat similar story. I mean, single parent mother, born in poverty, substandard school district, no father. Somehow I'm still here. You're all here. And you have an extra obstacle because, again, coming from a completely different culture, as refugee. So I mean, your story is much more, you had a lot more obstacles even than I did. So my question for anyone who wants to answer is this: being where you're at right now, and of course in the Twin Cities, there's probably a little bigger community to have your back and to support you. But for those of us in outstate Minnesota, or excuse me, greater Minnesota, and for North Dakota, we may not have necessarily that larger of a community to support us. What are some things, what's some advice that you could provide for anyone that's inspiring to sit where you are right now, and to try to get to that next level working in political office?
Brother Jonathan, I think the key issue here is, if it's not for the civil rights movement, for many people who sacrificed before us, we will not be sitting here today. So it's because of the struggles of our brothers and sisters that we were allowed to be in this country. You know, the struggles that have happened in many years still continue in a different way. So for us, you know, people may have our backs, but we also need to have the back of someone like you who's running for office, that we can help you, empower you. It's gonna take a lot of effort. Right now, I think we're thinking, how can we increase more diverse people representing different places at different time? Unless we build that leadership from within, where we're strong enough to bring that kind of leadership, someone like you running for office will feel that you've been left out. You don't have folks who can help you with resources, with the necessary tools for you to do that work. And I think it's lacking, and we need to build it. And that takes all of us coming together to build the tools for individuals who want to run for office and succeed. And I think that's upon us to build that system. So I think you have challenged us. We'll take it back. But for now, I think it's more having conversation with local people on the issues that impact them every day, just like the issues that you just mentioned.
Well, Jonathan, if I answer the question, as young, I'm 27 years old, elected official in the city, in the Twin Cities, that just tells you how and what helped me to get there. And I actually ask this question every night when I'm sleepy, before I go to bed. What helped me get here? And I reflect back, how did I win by over 7,000 votes in a district that's diverse, but also majority of the people are white. And I think if you go back, when the thing that helped me and the support that I gained was mainly about the relationships, the work that I did before I ran for office. So, and this, I also encourage, the young people who's sitting here again tonight, before you do something, do the work, find the right people, invest in the right people, and fight for the right issues and the right values, then you'll succeed. I know it could be hard, to be young, immigrant, refugee, Muslim, people of color to run for office, but also, it also takes, building relationships with the community and the right people in order for you to do the work. Thank you.
And Brother Jonathan, I want to add something about what he said and what these guys have said. So I remember Matu and Abdi when they were running for school board, we sat down with Moorhead Mayor Del Rey at Hukun, and what she said was, don't be busy on social media. Go and knock every door. Talk to every person you met. That way, if you meet with every person, you will know where you can get your votes. If you're winning, don't be like Hillary. Don't look polls. Knock every door. That is my advice to you. So, and Aden has a question, right? Okay. I'll take 2 questions, and then only 2 questions.
No, I promise. I promise not only for you. So, Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Aden, and of course I'm Bison in DSU. So, and I really want to appreciate you guys taking your time here today. It means a lot to me to hear someone who's tried 3 times. Is it the 3rd time you won?
For the same seat, yes.
So it's motivating me, really. So that's something I like to hear all the time, that it's good to do something again and again. At the end, you win. So it really touched me when you say that statement. So, and my question might be a little bit difficult, because some of you might try to escape it. So my question is, what is one thing you don't like when it comes to running for public office or when you're in public office?
When you are being criticized, right?
I could answer. No, that's fine. I remember when I first said I was going to run for an office, and a friend of mine said, Hodan, I know you're very prideful. Get comfortable with asking. I hate asking for things, but when you're running for an office, every time you take the mic, you're asking for money, you're asking for people's time, and you're asking for votes. So in the last 9 months, even though I have gotten better, it's still, I'm terrible at asking people. I mean, I grew up in a mentality that I can do it all. So that's like one thing that I don't like about this whole running for an office thing, is that you're constantly asking and people's money, time, and vote.
Just to be more precise, it's easy to ask for the vote and go door knocking every day, but asking for someone to contribute, their money, their hard-earned income to supporting the political process. Someone who's run a couple of times, people feel really exhausted in helping you and say, hey, we've helped you enough, now it's enough. But I think that the asking for someone say, hey, can you help me with money so that I can run the campaign? Because there's no campaign without resources, because you need volunteers. You also need to have paid staff who can help you with that process. You need to have systems in place. When you're dealing with a large constituents, you better focus on not only on the votes, but also on the resources that can help you. And someone who will get a lot of no's, you may be sending emails, you may talk to your own friend and asking them for $50, and they'll say, hey, you can get it back, and it takes them a lot of time just to give you that $50. And it takes that's something that I think for many folks is one of the difficult thing to do in politics.
Thank you. say something?
Yes.
Stop. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, as an elected official, I think one of the best things that I like about is it's an honor. You know, I think about the people that trusted me. Think about that people trust me with their parks and to be a voice for them. So it's a great responsibility. First, I like it. It's an honor that not everyone gets. But what I don't like about is the long hours, the campaigning the long hours that you have to campaign. The asking is something I enjoy. Everything else, I love it. But it's just the long hours.
Thanks. So, Amina, you have a question? Amina, you have a question? No, Amina, do you have a question? What is your question? So let's give chance to women, right? A lot of men are asking questions.
Thank you. I welcome you all to Moorhead. Even though I'm a guest here, I'm from Fargo, and you guys didn't visit us. Thank you.
We did. We had lunch there, so.
No, not yet. So my question is directly, one is to Mahamoud and one is to all of you. The first question I want to ask Mahamoud is that we've been having problems with the school system in Fargo and West Fargo, and I want to know how we can approach, how we can solve that problem. It's an ongoing problem, and it's been for so long, and it seems like no one talks about it forever. I approached Hukun about it, and we've done something. We had meetings with them. They are willing to do something, but our community don't even understand or acknowledge the fact that we actually having a problem. So I want to know what you guys can help me and how I can approach and how I can go about that issue. And the second question is to all of you: how can we get our immigrant community to vote? Because our voice counts and no one votes. They don't even understand that their voice even matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina.
So there are three questions. So let me start with the issue.
Go for the school one, and then Mohamed, go for the vote.
Absolutely. I'll give you a quick example. As a former board of directors with Minneapolis Public Schools, there are many challenges. One thing that many people will not, expect to be happening is the suspension of preschoolers, kids who are 4-year-olds. And kids who are in, less than 6-year-olds who are being suspended from school because of behavior issues. Why are we sending kids at that age to school? It's for them to learn how to socialize, to learn how to become better students and better themselves. So I took that issue and we created something called, with the superintendent, because we didn't have the policy. We put a stop on the suspension of the youngest in the school system. And guess what? It's not going to take that level of engagement because it's not a policy, and creating a policy in Minneapolis takes a long time. The other issues that I want you to be more empowered: engage your elected officials, school board members, engage your superintendent. If they're not listening, and guess what? We also deal with the same issues. You can file a civil rights violation and they will listen. Because of you, the channels that you have, they don't give you other options. If you don't speak up, nobody will listen. So follow those channels and things will work well. How can we help you? We can look at those issues because now we have got a wider perspective. If you don't come from Minnesota, we can't help you on the other side. But at least as a Minnesota policy issues, we, if and when, let's put it, when we become state legislators, we will have the responsibility to hold the school system accountable. And that's something which you can call us too and say, hey, we're dealing with those issues in different places. And we work with your state legislator and figuring out what can we do together to improve the policies. Although your local level has the major impact in what you do in any given issue, whether it's the city, the county, or the school, that's where the engagement comes from. And I encourage you to get involved. It took me a long time, but get your voice heard in different places and speak up.
So in terms of voting, or making sure that our community votes, so I ran for city council in Minneapolis, one of the craziest districts in Minneapolis. And there were quite a few folks, Somali Americans that lived in my district who were not used to voting like the district that Mahamoud lives in. And so one of the ways that I learned to get the vote out is grassroots. It's relationship. It's going back to these individuals over and over and over again. It's house by house, individual by individual. And at the end of the day, it's about getting literally a bus and getting them out of the house. And it takes a while, but it'll start to work. There are places in Minneapolis where now you don't need buses anymore. People will go out and vote. But there are places that we still need buses to get people out. And I think that's where you're at here on this side of the world, is you're at a moment where you literally have to work house by house, individual by individual, and in getting the vote out. It's really about relationships, and it's all about grassroots effort.
I think just to add on that, civic engagement civic engagement is actually the first step that I would think that if people understand the magnitude of their vote and how important it is that, you know, at the local level, forget about the national level, but right now at the local level, that they know, hey, do you know that your school board members, you know, are elected, and they, you know, hire the superintendent, and the superintendent oversees all the principals in all the schools. I think that's basic education of understanding. I think this is all new to us, the immigrant community, understanding that these are the people that make decisions, and if you don't vote, then you can't complain. You have lost the right to complain, but you have to vote. It's just having conversation as a community and coming together and talking about who oversees what, who's responsible for what. Right now, you said you guys are having an issue with the school district, reminding people that, hey, we have this issue because our school, you know, we're gonna go to our school board, directors. If they don't listen to us, it's election season, everybody will listen to you anyway. But if they don't listen to you, then you remember, you just, educate the community about who's with you and who's not. That would be one thing.
Well, look no farther. I mean, Mahamoud Noor is sitting here, Hodan is sitting here, AK is sitting here, because people voted for them. First, Amina. And second, Friday is the first day for early vote. So that's the first thing you guys want to do is Friday, you can vote early. And to do that, you have to volunteer. And in order for you to volunteer and engage with your fellow citizen, the first thing you need to do is, in Minnesota legislature, we will have Hodan, we will have Mahamoud Noor, and we have so many others who have same idea and same body with those guys. If you want to make a difference, they will help you for those who you vote, for your House representative, for example. And that's how you can engage. They don't have to be East African to get help. I mean, they will go the same place. They will go the state of Minnesota as the legislator, and they will help out together. So that's how you can get engaged. That's how you can make them understand, you know what, in order for you to our community to make a difference, then we have to vote for Republican or Democratic. In this case, Democratic. So that's how you can do it. And it's very easy to engage people. And that's how you can do it.
And I wanted to add it, the reason why we have them here in Fargo Moorhead is we want our immigrants to see that people like them being elected to an office so they can vote. I know what is going on in the community. Some of them don't want to vote, but we want them to see Mahamoud Noor, Hodan, AK, and so that they can go and vote, so that their vote matters. Hopefully you guys will take a picture with them and show all their moms there. So
can I say one simple thing too?
Yeah.
Go out to the malls. If you guys have coffee shops, every Friday the mosques, sit there, have a table, volunteer, and register people and just educate them. That's what it takes.
And you can work with Kani and Amina and Farhia too. They can help you too. They do that in Moorhead. I think they already registered almost 300 that they are planning to register and make sure they vote. So you can work with that. And Eunice. So thank you all for coming.